a seismically active zone in the middle of Germany. There is one, and it runs through an enormously long area, an area where earthquakes occur again and again, causing damage, and where previously known magnitudes are repeatedly exceeded. If you want to know what would happen if the Earth shook violently there, then make sure you stay tuned until the end to find out all about the Upper Rhine Graben. Welcome, friends! Vacations in Germany are all the rage again. In my opinion, anyone who doesn't fancy Sicilian arancini should leave the channel. Joking aside, people, even though I adore Sicily, Germany also has its charms. Frankfurt Central Station, for example, is beautiful. Let me know in the comments which place in Germany you've been to. Let's see who prefers the sea or the mountains. One area is particularly interesting, the Upper Rhine Graben in Baden-Württemberg. Here you will find a number of diverse vacation regions that are known for their scenic beauty, mild climate, and cultural sites. The beautiful Black Forest, for example, the green Kaiserstuhl, or the wine-crazy Rhine-Neckar region. I better do some marketing for the Upper Rhine Graben travel agency now that I think about it. The region is full of seismic risks, but it's definitely worth a visit. The whole region is a spectacle, as the Upper Rhine Graben is a fascinating geological formation that stretches from Basel in the south to Frankfurt in the north. It is an elongated deep depression created by geological activity, mainly by the drift of the Eurasian and African plates. Millions of years ago, extreme geological processes were at work here when the Earth's crust began to expand in Central Europe, leading to a rift-like cleavage. The resulting formation is known as the Rhenish Rift Valley. In a geological context, the term refers to a relatively rigid plate of the Earth's crust that has shifted horizontally due to tectonic movement, and the Upper Rhine Graben is part of this Rhenish Rift Valley. At that time, the Eurasian and African plates were already drifting towards each other, which primarily created the Alps, but also formed expansions in the Earth's crust at weaker points, which lowered the area to form a rift valley. However, the depression was repeatedly filled with sediments from neighboring areas which were deposited there. These sediment deposits made the soil there really fertile. There was also volcanic activity in some phases of the trench's formation, which is why hobby rock collectors can find a lot of basalt and tuff there today. After the Rift Valley had formed, the crustal plates rose again, which ultimately led to the current shape of the Upper Rhine Graben. So we see the process is more than complex, and various forces had to come together to form this phenomenon in southern Germany. But now I can already hear some of you grumbling,
"Dude, get to the point. Is the Earth shaking now, or can I continue gambling?"
The area does indeed have increased seismicity, and a major earthquake occurs on average every few months. However, these earthquakes are very small, with a maximum magnitude of 3, but can be felt by people who are located directly at the epicenter of life. Researchers say that every 10 years or so there are major quakes that can be felt nationwide and can even cause damage with a magnitude of 5. And there have been truly catastrophic earthquakes in the past. In 1356, there was a devastating earthquake in the region around Basel in the middle of the village of Rheinach. Houses collapsed, people fled into the streets in panic, the town caught fire, and almost all the cherries and castles in the surrounding area were damaged. The fire raged for days and food became scarce. Hundreds of people lost their lives. Based on historical records, researchers now estimate that this earthquake must have been a magnitude 6 on the moment magnitude scale. However, other studies also point to even higher values. In the end, it doesn't matter. The fact is that the seismic activity in the region can obviously be very dangerous. Those of you who have been paying close attention may be wondering why I just mentioned a magnitude 5 in the Upper Rhine Graben. You may now be asking yourselves, but surely magnitude 6 in the quake in Basel was hardly stronger than magnitude 5. Shouldn't magnitude 5 be enough to destroy the Black Forest? We need to take a quick look at the scale, because most earthquake scales are so-called logarithmic scales, where each unit represents an increase in 10 times the ground movement. For example, a magnitude 5 earthquake on the moment magnitude scale corresponds to 10 times more ground shaking than a magnitude 4 earthquake. Fortunately, my math grades were not measured logarithmically. So could we be experiencing a second Basel? Absolutely. There are so-called weak zones in the Upper Rhine Graben, which are created by the pressure of the African plate on the Eurasian plate and lie along the fault lines that were created during the tectonic activity of the Graben and have an increased susceptibility to geological activity such as earthquakes or even volcanism, quasi a seismic predetermined breaking point. In any case, this is referred to as intraplate seismicity, i.e. seismic activity that occurs within a tectonic plate and not at the edges. According to the researchers, the activity in the Upper Rhine Graben can be described as moderate in a global comparison. It is nowhere near as dramatic as is the case in earthquake regions that lie directly on tectonic plate boundaries such as Turkey. Martin Hench from the Earthquake Service says, weak, generally imperceptible earthquakes are measured daily in Baden-Württemberg, and locally slightly perceptible earthquakes also occur on average once a month. Strong earthquakes with catastrophic effects are rare in Baden-Württemberg but cannot be ruled out. C'est vertickert. And indeed, predicting earthquakes at this location is very difficult despite thorough monitoring. Hench explains that the location, time and magnitude cannot be determined exactly, so you never know exactly where the epicenter might be and when the earth will begin to shake. Based on my expertise, I recommend simply throwing Taylor Swift into the Upper Rhine Graben, then the earthquakes can possibly be accurately predicted. At a concert in Seattle, the fans danced and jumped so wildly that a quake was actually registered. If the local authorities can't spare the money for a world star, then they have to rely on the technical equipment, and therefore only a risk assessment can be made for the various regions in order to take the best possible precautions. Research in this area is therefore once again immensely important, because if a strong earthquake were to hit the Upper Rhine Graben today, the effects would be devastating. There could be major damage to buildings and infrastructure in this part of the populated area if they are not built to withstand earthquakes. People could be injured by falling debris, the ground could be destabilized, and there could be landslides or soil liquefaction as a result. In order to minimize the effects of a strong earthquake, it is therefore important to take preventive measures, develop emergency plans, and inform the population about the correct behavior in the event of an earthquake, as the region is of course much more densely populated today than it was during the quake in Basel in the 14th century. Such a quake in Frankfurt would be rather suboptimal, but then we would have the chance to rebuild the Central Station district. Well, it remains exciting to see if and when the Earth will shake again in the Upper Rhine Graben, and I will of course let you know immediately if anything happens. But you can only do that if you subscribe to my channel. Subscribing is absolutely free, you'll never miss another galactic video, and you'll help me immensely. So hit the subscribe button, and if you haven't already, please give me a like if you like my work. There is a lot of energy slumbering in such seismically active regions. If we were to use all of this thermal energy from the planet, we could directly supply several civilizations with it. Very similar to nuclear fusion, and there was a massive breakthrough there. So will we soon have solved all our energy problems and be able to jet off to the stars with fusion propulsion? You can find out in the video below. Be sure to watch it. It will energize you. And if you want to support my work, you can always visit the Astro Shop and get yourself some plush planets and real meteorites. Otherwise, I'd say see you in the next video. Take care, friends.